And we made it. And we made it. Glad to be here again with you for another day. As this goes live, it's Friday at 1:07 p.m. And so because we're in the middle of the day, I don't know how many people will be able to join us. It's going to be quite an experiment in terms of the time. But for those of you who are with us right now, we certainly appreciate you. We got Before the Billion. Shout out to you, brother. Thanks for your support as always. And as people come in, I'll go ahead and give the shouts out. Even if you're watching this after the fact, you don't necessarily have to be live. Appreciate you watching the stream and coming on board. Talk with Frank Gooden, but as you see from the thumbnail, we are pivoting into Objections, a collab debate show with my colleague, who I will bring to the screen right now, the very sharp, very talented, very opinionated Jen with On the Block with Jen. You want to say something?
Hey, good morning, guys. I am happy to see you here. It's early, but I hope you guys could still give us a little peek. Frank, we're doing the red here. This was not planned. What's going on?
You're right. Yeah, it is what it is. I guess we're on the same wavelength.
All right, that's good. I'll take it.
We'll see, because these topics that I want to bring up today might be topics that we end up more in agreement on than disagreement. Okay. So we'll see, which is cool. We'll see how it flows out. Okay. I'm ready either way. I'm good with it.
I got a feeling I'm gonna piss some people off today, though. It's been smooth sailing. Everyone's been agreeing with Jen, but I think I'm gonna ruffle some feathers today.
Hey, as long as you bring it, and it's so good that you mentioned that, because it's a nice segue here on this channel and with Objections on both of our spaces. Because as you know, this is a collab where we follow this format on both my channel and on the Block with Jen. The thing that we pride is respect. So if you disagree, you do it respectfully. We bring our opinions, and hopefully we do some learning and sharing. So if you rustle some feathers, hey, it's all good. So I just wanted to go ahead and bring that up here. What you see here is a nice little graphic I put up, all about objections. The point is for us to bring our opinions to the table. We debate them if we disagree, and then we give you the opportunity to call in if you have an objection to anything that's saying up here in the panel. So with that, I think I should go ahead and sort of bring up with our first subject, what we should talk about today. Do we still need police reform? All right. This is a subject that I've been, let me bring up this banner also. This is a subject that I'm pretty close to because, as you know, throughout the years, this country has this, it's an inescapable legacy of police brutality with minorities, and specifically as a Black American, Black Americans, African Americans in this country. And as you know, with the murder of George Floyd last year, I think it was the end of May when that happened, it really did set the entire country on a very interesting path, where for the first time it seems like a whole lot of people came together and did the protested for the entire summer. And that actually brought forth some results. We had some positive results come about from that. Since that time, I want to mention a few key police reforms since that happened, since the George Floyd incident happened. In 4 states, laws have been passed limiting officer immunity. And so that's really important, where we now, at least in those 4 states, there's some officers can't get away with as much, in terms of prosecution as maybe they did before. In 10 states, laws have been passed mandating or funding body cameras. So many states already have them, but not all states do. 10 states now got added to the roll. In 16 states, laws have been passed restricting net restraints. And you know that's crucial. That was a key contributor in that case, as well as a few other ones. And in 5 states, laws have been passed restricting no-knock warrants. You know, there's a few other things that have been passed since that time. But the issue is, okay, we seem to be making some progress. Is that enough? Is that enough progress? Do we still need police reform, even though some things are happening in the way that we want? My answer is going to be yes. We still need police reform. And the reason why is because, and there's a lot of reasons, I'll just go into one right now. One of the things is that we seem to be overall still kind of preoccupied with what happens after the event has happened, you know, after something has, a law enforcement officer has gone too far. And from my perspective, we need to be more preoccupied about limiting. We don't want it to happen in the first place. And so while there's some laws on the books and there's some attention going on to, making sure that after the fact, police face some accountability when we want that, and we really need more of that. I think more needs to happen ahead of time to really stop this foolishness from going down in the first place. That's where I'll start. I'll kick it over to you, Jen. What are your thoughts on it?
I totally agree. We need police reform, and we need a lot more of it. I think it's great. You know what I mean? The laws and bills that were passed after George Floyd, but I think it moves like molasses, and that continues to keep us in danger, of course, right? Because while these things are tied up in court, people are being killed, unarmed or otherwise, or mentally ill. So we do need police reform. We've needed it forever, since the beginning of time. And I don't want to get too much into the history of the police in general, but anyone who's done their history, we know in this country, the first police ever were just meant to come out and, corral us and police us, meaning people of color. So there's a deep, dark history. The root of the police department in general, it's deep, it's dark, and it's ugly. So and it's been that way, for centuries, right? And worse, it's just an environment. So I think it's going to take a lot of work to reform it across the board. It's sad that it's going to move like molasses because it's not a priority that they have, right? With that said, and this is where the feathers will be ruffled. With that said, we kill each other at a much, 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 much higher disproportionate rate. Although the United States kills citizens at a disproportionate rate in comparison to other wealthy countries. And it's not even like 50-60, it's a landslide. It's like we have the United States, they'll kill 1,099 people in a year, and Canada, 35. So that's a huge difference, right? So there has to be reform there. But I think we have to look to ourselves and our families and really buckle down, because we're killing each other at a much, much higher rate than anybody is killing us right now. And that is a fact. And that may piss people off because it's just more sexy. Maybe that's not the right word. Maybe it's more sexy to concentrate on cops that kill us. But I'm more concerned with us killing us, to be honest. And I know people will say, yeah, but when Ray Ray kills Pookie, he gets arrested. That is a myth, okay? I did my research. Cops are not as good as you think at solving crimes. In a year, 35% of murders go unsolved. 66% of sexual assaults go unsolved. 70% of robberies go unsolved. 47% of aggravated assaults go unsolved. So no, Pookie doesn't always get arrested when he kills Ray Ray, right? So that's my concern. My concern, in my opinion, it is more grave an issue how we're killing each other in these neighborhoods than a cop coming in and killing one of us. Yes, there has to be a police reform. Yes, if a police officer kills someone who is unarmed, he should be jailed. He should lose his job. But when I'm thinking about the weight and the urgency, I think it's more urgent of an issue how we're killing each other in our neighborhoods. That's That's a bigger issue to me. And both of them can be addressed. I'm just talking urgency. There are a lot more of us dying at the hands of each other than people. So that's my issue.
Okay, all right. So I see how you know, that's not necessarily ruffling, because I can think of a few people across the board in my own community that might agree with you and say, hey, that's the bigger issue. I am going to disagree that that's a bigger issue. And I do want to push back because I don't want to. Number one, I don't think that the pivot to the fact that, you know, there's either black on black crime or minority crime rises to the same level of importance. Because number one, yeah, I do believe you're right. I think your stats are probably on point. But keep in mind that same race on same race crime is high no matter what race we're talking about. So black on black crime or black on black killing is at, you know, I've seen these stats up there that it's up in the high 80s, maybe even 90s. But then white on white crime is right behind it, at just below that, in either the low 80s or maybe mid 80s, something like that. I have to go back and double check the numbers. And it's those same rates, no matter what the ethnic group is, if you want to break down those same race on same race crime statistics. So just because it's happening and it's happening at a higher rate, to me, means that there are different issues that we need to be talking about. And what I don't want, and I think it's a mistake to then try to conflate that issue with this other issue of law enforcement mispractice, or, you know, going over the top. Just to state some numbers, and, you know, we kind of talked about it a little bit. Right now, current statistics, as of right now, 943 people have been shot and killed in total by police in the past year. And so that's that's all races. And if we want to break it down and make it into, when we're talking about the race factor, the race issues, then maybe we can take it there. But really, for me, I'm looking at this subject from a broader perspective. Do we still need police reform for the entire country? When you have 943 people being killed by law enforcement this year so far, and we're just now finishing up August and starting September, with more time to go, there's got to be a high percentage of those, where a decent number of those where it didn't have to happen. You know, let's say if it's half, maybe 500 people, maybe less, it's 400, whatever the number is, they didn't have to lose their life in that situation. But now they're no longer here. And so as long as that is happening, for me, come on, we've got to make sure that we put stuff in place. I think it's interesting, your argument, and in terms of, you know, the black on black, and also breaking things down in terms of race, and we can go there. But I will say, I don't think that those issues, while they are important, rise to this overall level of importance that we need to be at when we're talking about police reform. What you think?
I think that, okay, I don't want to use the words black on black crime, right? Because I think that's it's a derogatory term, right? Because it insinuates that black people are the only ones killing each other, right? They coined it, it's out there. It's like, oh, only black people kill each other. I know, I agree with you. White people are going to kill white people, right? Because they're in the same neighborhood. Latins are going to kill Latins because they're in the same neighborhood. Very rarely, if ever, do any of us, who commit crimes that are people of color, going to travel out of state or into other neighborhoods. You're going to hit the neighborhood like, did you see the new TV they bought? I want that TV, right? We're robbing each other. So yeah, absolutely. It's like, it's obvious we're going to attack each other because we're in the same vicinity. But I don't want it to be, I'm not doing a comparison thing like, well, white people do it too. And Latins do it too. And black people, that is not what I'm doing. And I don't want to do that. And honestly speaking, I don't want to sound callous, but I don't care what white people do. I don't care that white people kill each other. I care about what's happening in my neighborhood. I care about my grandmother going down the street. And my grandmother's not in a white neighborhood. Right? Well, my grandmother more than likely will get robbed by someone Latin or someone black. Okay. Highly unlikely is not going to be a white guy, right? So I, I still say I'm more concerned with that. Yes, police reform is a huge issue. But if the issue is, it's like when we were talking about the COVID yesterday. If the concern is death, if the concern is loss of life, right? People are trying to prevent death at the end of the day with the vaccine, with police reform. We do not want police officers killing our brothers, our husbands, our mothers or sisters. We do not want police officers killing us, period, because we don't want that loss of life. But how can we not be moved and think that it's more urgent when we're killing each other by the dozens over a weekend? How can it not be more urgent if our concern is loss of life? If our concern is loss of life, then I would think we should be marching globally to stop the massive loss of life at our hands. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that white people don't kill each other too, Latins don't, and Native Americans because they live next door. All people of all races on the entire globe. If you go to deep to you know what I mean, some tribe, they're killing each other because there's no one else around. So yeah, we all do that, but I'm more concerned about what we're doing. My concern isn't what white people are doing in their neighborhoods because they have privilege, right? The cops show up and they don't show up guns blazing, right? So that's my concern. We're both, I don't want to conflate, but it's like, how can you not conflate if the issue is, I don't want people to die?
Because, okay, so I hear you and I'm with you. So here's the thing. Here's why I disagree and where I pivot. So it is about the loss of life, and it is about the fact that we don't want, crime in our neighborhoods because we care about our loved ones and our friends. The thing here is that in order to help with deterring crime, sort of in general, we have things in place that are meant to deal with those things. So like, no matter, first of all, there are laws, and for people who commit crimes, as average citizens, everyday citizens, the laws are out there. People know that they're doing wrong. They know they're breaking the law, that kind of thing. So there's an expectation that if you do something, that you are going to be brought to justice. And it's up to you to decide if you can fake it out. If you can get away and you did it, then, there you go. But it's not like you have the license to go out willy-nilly and, just do whatever you want. You know that you're doing something where you're going to have to face justice. And so you gotta lay low. You better go into hiding. You better get out of there. There are consequences. That's number one. Number two, we know that we have in every city, major city, that these things are happening. We have, it's not like it's just you and I that are going back and forth and we're saying, oh, this is wrong. We don't want this to happen. There are organizations that are out there doing these little community walks and marches and neighborhood communities coming together and saying, listen, what can we do to solve whatever these issues are in our particular neighborhoods? There are efforts out there to try to handle and deal with the situation. But when we talk about law enforcement misconduct and police going out and shooting people, it brings in this other issue where, because the police unions are so strong and because of the collective, the history that we have in terms of how we defer to law enforcement, they have so much power that they are used to and accustomed to they're licensed to kill, and the laws are on their side. They can get away with it. And so, and it's harder to prove the way the situation is set up. It's harder to bring them to account when they do something like that is clearly wrong. For years and years and years, the officer writes something on the police report and will justify whatever their actions were, and they get it in the court, and the judges and the whole system, DA, everybody's lined up with them to be able to help them evade consequences of justice. And so part of why it continues to happen is because of that. And so for people like me who say, hey, I want to talk about police reform, and I hear you on this other side, but I really want to focus on police reform, is because traditionally, only up until recently, has it even gotten into the national conversation that listen, this is wrong. The law enforcement is set up in such a way where it's not accountable to itself. It's not accountable to the system. It's not accountable to us as citizens who empower you. We need to be talking about those things in order to keep law enforcement from doing things like popping you up the head when you didn't deserve it, or letting off a bullet when you didn't deserve it, or some of these other things, no matter what race you are. And of course, they beating up on the races much more than their own. But there are times when they don't matter. They're power tripping. So for me, that's how I separate it, and that's how I separate those two issues. What do you think about that?
I agree with you there. I agree with you. I think that there are two very separate issues, very separate. My thing is just loss of life. In my mind, there's a chip in my brain that is just loss of life. That's the file at the front, right? If we're trying to prevent loss of life, my attention is going to be on my neighborhood. And why is there so much loss of life here, right? We don't deal with police officers as much as we deal with each other, but I can compartmentalize because they are very different and they're both urgent. I'm just saying that the urgency is the mass loss of life is amongst us, right? But I totally believe in police reform. I'm for defund the police, even though a lot of people don't even know exactly what that means, because I think our neighborhoods, a lot of people don't know, but I think our neighborhoods are underserved, right? So there has to be police reform. It has to be drastic and it has to be faster than molasses because it's moving like molasses. So I'm with you 100% about police reform. It is necessary. It is urgent, right? Even though there's a lot of red tape and it gets tied up, it is urgent because we do have a lot of cowboys out there. And if we're being completely frank, a lot of them do come into our neighborhoods with racist, preconceived notions. You know what I mean? And they're policing our neighborhoods. They don't like us to begin with. So basically, we're pretty much, asked out, starting there. But I don't want it to be. It's like we also have to hold ourselves accountable. So we don't need the police as much as we do. So we don't dial 911 because Cousin Ray Ray's bugging out, and we know he's the crazy one in the family. We have to be extra careful how we deal with the police and why we call them, right? And when they are there and they are serving us, which I'm not gonna lie, it's rare, right? I don't trust the police. I grew up in the Bronx, the South Bronx. I don't trust the police. We all grew up not trusting the police, right? And that's generational. It's like, look, cops are coming, it's not gonna be fair. So I understand that mistrust, but I also understand that when we're in trouble, when we're getting robbed, when we're getting hurt, we still dial 911, right? We still dial 911 and we confront and we can say, F12 and F the police, but we still need them in our neighborhoods because we're not policing ourselves. There's broken homes and, this, that, and the third. But I'm 100% for police reform. I'm 100% for defund the police or allocate funds elsewhere, however you want to word it. I just think we really have to pay attention to the relationships that we're having with each other in our neighborhoods and with the police, right? Because automatically squad car means no trust. Right?
I hear you.
And I've been on the short end of that stick as well. I got pulled over in a stolen vehicle at gunpoint. You know what I mean? The squad cars pulled up and they had their guns out, and I was furious to the point where I had to, calm the cop down. Now I have to calm somebody down who has a pistol pointed at me. So it's nothing nice. This is what happens to us continuously in our neighborhood. So I'm for police reform. We got racist, cops. We have cops that are not mentally stable. They're overworked, they're stressed, and they're armed. So it's no surprise when you hear these numbers that are staggering in the United States, that the environment in the United States is the cops show up, somebody's getting killed. And it's a shame. It's a shame.
You know what? I hear you loud and clear. And also, I think you bring up a good point about, I think both of us agree that, I know I can tell you, I have respect for the police. I have respect for the officers, and I don't want to in any way impugn the whole law enforcement field in general, I have family members who are in law enforcement, and most of us do, or many of us do. So this isn't like some sort of broad brush, hate the police type thing, as it simply is a call for even more accountability for those times and those few that do overstep their bounds. Now, here's the thing: the subject has been posted. The case has been laid out with both myself and Jen, and we're wondering if you have any objections. Looks like we might have someone. I'm bringing up right now before the billions. Thank you for participating. The cases have been made. We've heard the points. Do you object to anything you've heard so far?
Yes, sir. Good
Where's the
afternoon.
timer?
Yeah, and the time is coming.
Right. Good afternoon to you, Frank and Jen.
Good afternoon. Yeah.
All right. Hey, so I do want to just add in my perspective. So my dad was a police officer for over 20 years, and he was the lieutenant over the Fulton County Police Department. And so I have a different perspective because I see him, and I interact with police in a totally different way because I actually know them personally. So a lot of them are just, regular people. And honestly, since I live in Atlanta, I think that we should probably have more police simply because even our Fulton County sheriff, his car was broken into, and it's a rampant issue going on with crime in Atlanta, especially since we had the defund the police, and I know what defunding the police is, such as like just distributing the resources into another thing that you can use as instead of the police, such as education. But the thing is that it's going so much, and they're really supposed to just be a deterrent for a lot of these crimes. Um, so I just think that we should probably have more, and also the conflation of black on black crime or just same race on same race crime, and the need for police or the need for police reform. Um, those are two different things. I think you guys said that earlier. But yeah, I do agree that there should be police reform, such as things like checks and balances set in place. Like if somebody gets killed by the police officer, there should be an investigation each time. So stuff like that. We already have the body cameras, which have helped out in some ways. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of bring that up and say that yes, there should be more police reform, and there should be more police as well.
You know what? We love that. Thank you for that. And what's cool here is that okay, you didn't have an objection per se, but you called in to add more perspective and information to it, informing us, and that's part of what we want as well. So we definitely appreciate you coming on for that. I'm going to leave you on board because we have someone else who may have an objection or maybe not. And we have here a blind guy, his wife, their life, one of my number one supporters. Even when we disagree on points like COVID, we still come right back with supporting each other. I appreciate you calling in. Looks like you're busy. Blind guy, I'm about to put you on the clock. Do you have an objection?
Yeah, so my objection, I gotta be the person that's objecting against like all off topic and everything. I object against Frank going live every time I'm driving. I can't get receipts. This is not fair. And I do want to every time. I do want to say kudos to Jen. She came with receipts. I don't know if there's a win or lose, but I'm here to vote for Jen because everything she said so far has been on point with defund the police and explaining it that it's not just take away the money but reallocate the funds to where we really need them. And so I think I'm sort of with before the billions with echoing everything that's been said here because we really need to police ourselves. Someone in the chat said that Americans love police violence or police brutality. And I don't know if that's an objection to what you've said, but just based on the shows like Cops, how they want to, showcase and highlight the hate and the crime and the brutality of it, I think that's another argument to defund the police because it's something out here. It's not okay. It's still happening. We need reform. We definitely need police reform.
There you
That's
go.
it.
All right. No, I appreciate it. Appreciate you being so concise with your comments as always. Um, you know what? This has been a really good conversation. I think that we I think mostly agree with broad points, and then we have some our own points of view and our perspectives about a number of things. Before I pivot to our next subject, I want to give Jen the final word on this subject if she wants, considering we just had these people come in.
Well, thank you for being with me. I gotta
I'm
say,
trying to make Jen win.
I want to piggyback off that because that's a great point. Police brutality is glamorized in this country. Like if I say to you right now, bad boy, which we all know what that is, right? It is glamorized in this country. We have a lot of shows showing detective interrogation and police brutality and police chases and police breaking down doors. So it's absolutely right. There's like this whole culture where it's glamorized, right? And again, we get the short end of the stick where it's like just entertainment for some people. These people are really beating down our doors. Okay. And again, growing up in the Bronx, you know what I mean? I've been through all kinds of things. My grandmother's house was broken into because there was a rumor of there was drugs being sold out of there. And they could have came in guns, but my mom was so scared she was pushing the door back because she didn't know who it was and they didn't announce themselves, right? So she thought somebody was breaking in. They sued and everything, but what if somebody would have, got killed?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a reality that we have to deal with. It's not a TV show for us when we live in these neighborhoods.
That's so true. So true.
Excuse me, Frank. That's another point for Jen. That was a great example.
She's doing it. She's killing me. She's killing me right now. Okay, well then, since I'm losing so much on this subject, I'm about to pivot. We're going to go to another topic right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to invite you all, if you guys want to stay on Blind Guy, His Wife, Their Life, and Before the Billions, you certainly can. I will just put you in the back. If you like this topic, then I invite you to stay on. I'll pull you up if you have an objection, or you're welcome to call back in a little bit later.
I'm going to head out, and I'll be in the chat listening because we're almost at our destination. But this is great. Jen is on fire. Jen is probably the winner. Looking at the direction that she's going, I'm just here to big up the ladies.
Look at you. Go ahead, Jen. You got a supporter. Okay, now I got to try to get her back. Thank you, Blind Guy. All right, and before the bins, I will pop you in the back. Anything you want to say real quick before I do that?
No, I appreciate you for letting me jump in.
Oh yeah, no, thank you. Valuable stuff you brought. Let's see what this next topic has in store for us. All right. So looks like Jen, you up on me right now. So I'm gonna see if I can't recover a little bit here. We'll see. Let's go to our next topic. Is social media good or bad? Is it good or bad? Now, we're pivoting from a really, really serious topic to one that is not so serious, but still impactful. Because, yeah, definitely serious in a lot of ways, actually. Social media is so profound in this day and age, and it affects us in so many ways. It's everywhere. You think immediately of stuff like what we're on now, YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. But then you think about some of the other social media outlets that are just coming up that our kids are using, like TikTok and Snapchat and non-traditional social media outlets. Social media seems to have really, really taken over. And because of that impact in our society, I think it's worth talking about and even debating whether, what this impact is, because it's changing our culture in a lot of significant ways. Before I jump into my side, I'll give you the option. Jen, do you want to jump in with your point of view, or do you want me to continue?
I can jump in.
Okay, go ahead.
I can say that, and I did a show on this on social media. I can say that it's very, very serious, and it's a lot more serious than people think it is, right? What we used to see a lot being parroted on Facebook and Instagram, it's not that serious, it's just Facebook. It's not that serious, it's just Instagram. And now people are using social media to murder people on live camera, right? There have been multiple cases where someone has announced on Facebook, I'm going to go kill such and such right now. And then they went and killed such and such. The need for an audience, no matter how toxic your life is a very, very dangerous thing. It's like fuel to a fire. And even with relationships, with marriages, people are like, oh, then your relationship wasn't that strong. I disagree. I don't think people understand the power of variety, right? It's like a human buffet. It's a constant feeding where you could have been in a very strong relationship. But what you frequent, you become, right? Sometimes subconsciously. And you're online and you're faithful and you're in love, but you're constantly scrolling. These women are showing their bodies and these men are showing their bodies. And people are a click away to say hello to you. You know, I can tell you countless stories where people ran into their old heartthrob from high school and left their current relationship. So it is serious. And I think that it's very dangerous for us to think that it's not serious because it's something that's part of our lives, right? 24 hours a day. When we wake up, we look at our phones. It's the last thing we do before we go to sleep. And during the day, we're constantly checking in. How can something that you do throughout your entire day not be serious? If you ate a burger throughout your entire day, it would break down your system, right? If you watched a guitar lesson all through your day, you'd be a guitar player, right? Whatever we constantly consume, we become a part of, right? And I think with social media, you just get sucked in. So I don't think it's like, oh, well, your relationship wasn't strong then, or you was. I'm telling you, we are not as strong as we think. Patrice said yesterday, the flesh is weak. So is the mind. So is the mind. So I think it's really, really serious. It's dangerous to think otherwise. That's my thoughts on it.
You know what? I hear you. And it's you're talking about some really good things, and you know, I really can't and don't really want to disagree with the points that you're bringing. My thing would be, you know, the things that you're talking about, are those failings of social media or are those our failings as we drill down on it? And so what I mean is in terms of how we use social media. So for example, social media as a tool, as a blank slate, some of the good things that we do on social media, we use it to stay connected with our family and friends. And we do that worldwide, wherever they are. You know, so you have the convenience of being able to do that. It gives us really quick information and access to information and research. Right now, you know, I'm jumping online. You're doing the same thing, likely, using information for what we're talking about right now, Googling, and we've done it before in the past. Access to information can't be overstated. That's a good thing. We use social media, or at least the online connectivity, the network, for online banking. We pay bills at our fingertips using, you know, with the social media out there. People support my show using Cash App and buy me a coffee. We use social media for online learning, you know, for skills training. You know, we discover new content. You and I right now are using YouTube to have a debate show where we want to positively impact you know, others. And I could go on. And so for me, the question is, are these negative ways that we use social media, are they failings of us? Can we blame social media, or should we be pointing that finger at the humankind, the human condition, human nature? What do you think?
That's a great point, because someone can throw a line of cocaine in front of me, right? And I have a choice, right? I have a choice. Now, unfortunately, social media is not that simple, right? It's kind of like the wolf in sheep's clothing is what social media is. And I'll explain. It's great. Online banking, it's great. I can shoot my sister an email, a funny picture of us. It's great. It's great to keep in contact with family. Unfortunately, for us, right, just the average human being, we are not experts, and we have to concede we are on devices that experts developed to keep us on, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not as simple as, hey, would you snort a line of cocaine if it was in front of you? It's not that simple because we automatically reject that. Hey, I don't do that, right? But when we're consumed with something that first looks harmless, right? And then we become addicted because social media is an addiction today. It is an addiction. I say when you stand in a group of friends, if you pull out your phone, just observe. Everyone else will pull out their phone. It's like a cigarette break. Okay. There's a documentary on Netflix called The Social Dilemma, and they talk to a lot of executives from Yahoo and Google and Facebook, right? And they explain how they develop programs to keep you locked in, right? So thinking you're just playing an innocent game, they're back there like, we got them. We threw that meme out and now we got them for 3 hours. So we're constantly on a device that's being designed daily to keep us in. So it's beyond now, oh, I just do it to keep in contact with my sister in Florida. It's beyond that now. These people are continuously playing mind games and working on our minds to keep us there. So a lot of us are hooked. You see toddlers, you see 3-year-olds on their phone now. And if you take the phone from them, they get pissed off. They're not old enough to know right from wrong, but they're old enough to be addicted. And that's a sign right there that this is way bigger and way more dangerous than we even know. So it is part human condition. The flesh is weak, but we cannot underestimate or diminish that these people are designing these things to keep us on and keep us hooked. And a lot of it does ruin our relationships. A lot of it, and I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about you're not watching your children grow because you want to see how many people liked your picture on Instagram. So yeah, you have to be strong. The flesh is weak, but you have to be strong and fix it on your own because they're not going to fix it for you. They want you addicted. So they're not going to fix it. So going back to what you said, yeah, it is the human condition, human nature. So we have, because we're weak and it's just human nature to go along with the flow, right? We have to be more careful. And I just say, take it serious. Do not take it light. Take it serious. Know that you're spending hours on there. Know that you're neglecting your children. Know that you're neglecting your marriage. It's serious. It's great for banking, but how often do we bank online, right? How often do we bank?
I do all the time, but go ahead.
Right? So I mean, like, we're not doing it all day.
Right.
Or Facebook all day. I check my account often too. I check my credit score and has anybody important, emailed me? Is it business? But I'm not doing that all day. Whereas like I post a picture and it's like, oh, notification. Oh, my sister posted this. Oh, but there's more of a lure with social media, right? Than there is, oh, let me check my bank account. So my thing would be, if there's a takeaway, just understand that you're using something that's more powerful than you and acknowledge it. Okay. Don't do that. Oh, it's not that serious. It's just Facebook. I'm here for my family. And then you're there all day and spoke to your family maybe once in the 8-hour day. Right. So we just have to be careful. There's good and there's bad, but I think there's a lot more bad, right, that we're not acknowledging. And that's what makes it dangerous. It's like eating something that's bad and acting like it's not bad for you because it tastes good.
I'm with you. This is a good time to bring in some comments from the chat that they may not necessarily be specific objections, but they're informing the point. Blind Guy, his wife, their lives lets us know, hey, great points. Social media today is made of influence. Snuggles. People develop the devices to make human life a lot more easier and a lot more comfortable. The fact that you do not understand that it has a trade-off to be comfortable is the problem. I think I'm going to come back to that one as I go down here, the list. JP lets us know we don't teach moderation. We also don't consider there is actual community for the youth, for the youth in social media. And that's an interesting point. JP is also saying, look at us. We feel some type of connection that we will go from stream to stream to share camaraderie. What do you think our children do? And I'm going to go back now because these are all some really good comments. And I think I want to pivot a little bit, not pivot, but talk a little bit about what I believe Snuggles said. which is this notion of the trade-offs, because I think that's what we have here is this trade-off. The power of social media for edifying, effective purposes, but at the same time, social media for destructive purposes. And there's a trade-off, and different people are using it in all these different ways, positive ways and negative ways. It is hard to, when we consider the power of social media, Jen, I do believe it's hard to quibble with you when you at least talk about just how bad those bad ways are and how destructive those destructive ways are. We really have to think deep down about everything to try to measure out, okay, well, which one is it? More good, more bad? Because I think we can all agree this one isn't a good or bad. It's not one or the other. It's not a strictly black or white issue. There's something to it. What do you think?
I think it's more bad. I think it's more bad. Even when someone had mentioned the camaraderie, and there's a community for youth and things like that. Mm-hmm. Also, teenage suicide rate went up exponentially the last decade. You know what's been around the last decade? Social media, Facebook and Instagram. So you have to take those things into account. Kids are now killing themselves because 10 people told them, in a chat, you're ugly, you're fat, I don't like your pimples.
Bullying.
Just to show, like right here in the chat, we have adults in this chat right now who are trying to bully me and come at me. So you have to understand, if you have adults with no self-control, imagine what environment your child is in with children of their peer group. So you have to be very careful. Can children find a community online that caters to positive events and positive community? Absolutely. But I would caution you, right? And I know kids don't like this, but I would caution you to check in with them and see what communities they are a part of, because there is no control on Instagram from porn. There is no control from bullying, okay, as we see here today. So in my opinion, it's more bad. If you're telling me the teenage suicide rate is up, you know what I mean? What's happened in the last decade? Why is there an increase in the last decade? Why is there so much bullying online? Why are there so many anti-bullying campaigns going on online? And our kids are not, depending on who you talk to, our kids aren't getting stronger, they're getting weaker, if you notice. And if you notice, adults aren't getting stronger, they're getting weaker. Mm-hmm. Like people always want you to apologize now. Oh my God, you said what? I need to apologize. Canceled. You know what I mean? So if adults aren't even in control of their time on social media, imagine a vulnerable child who hasn't even developed, right? So we have to do more work. Is it like, no social media for you? In a perfect world, yes, I would protect my child from social media forever, right? But we can't do that. So we have to be vigilant. It's dangerous. Okay, you have to raise a soldier now. If your kid's going to be on social media by the age of 5, you better make sure you instill in that 5-year-old that they're the best thing that ever happened to the planet, right? So it's a double-edged sword. I just think one of them has a bigger blade.
You know it, and be hard to argue with you. My people in the chat, the topic has been broached. The points have been made. Now is your opportunity in the chat. Let us know. Who do you think won both debates today? Do you agree with Jen? Do you agree with Frank? Let us know in the chats. Since we don't have anybody who really felt strongly enough to actually call in and give us an objection, then I think that acknowledges the point that it is nuanced and that, there's a little bit on both sides. I think, Jen, you're making outstanding points for, hey, social media might be a little bit more detrimental right now than it is beneficial.
Yeah, we have to acknowledge that. And also, I'm reading a couple of books on psychology, and they say the rise of the narcissist is also on the way up, because social media, it requires you to constantly show yourself and want people to approve, right? And that in itself is a narcissistic trait. right? Someone always looking for approval, like me, like me, like me. So there are a lot of little details that we're ignoring that can be really bad for our well-being and our mental health, that we can't even handle it, right? If adults, speaking generally, if adults can't even handle social media sometimes, the temptation of that ex, or the temptation of that high school sweetheart, or the temptation of flirting, imagine what our children are going through. So just be vigilant. Try to do it in moderation. I quit a lot of social media pages. I'm only on Instagram and on YouTube because I was like, I don't like how this is making me feel. And I feel like I'm on here too much and I'm missing some things, right? And I was like, yeah, I'm out. So just be aware of what you're doing. It is not just Facebook. It is not just Instagram. It's a part of your life now. So you have to treat it as such because it's in your life all day long.
That's a great way, I think, to tie up this subject. You know, we like to keep these our objections debate shows to roughly an hour. We're coming right up on that now, so this is a good time to go ahead and wrap up this show. Before we do, I want to mention that we are coming right back with more topics over on the block with Jen. Jen's YouTube space, and we're going to do that, and actually coming up in a half hour. Jen, did you want to mention anything about that coming up? Or?
Yes, at 1:30, what is that, 1:30 Pacific Standard Time, we will be getting into #MeToo. So it's going to be heavy. I need my ladies and my gents on my channel. Objections at 1:30 Pacific Standard Time. We're going to be talking about #MeToo, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the what the.
Fellas, I definitely want you to come over and help me out right here because you know the ladies are going to come in force, and I'm already taking L's, so you know what they got in store for me over there. So if you can, that's in a half hour. Definitely come on over and join us for that debate. It should be a really lively one.
Wait, it's not in a half hour. It's at 1:30 my time, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, why I keep saying half hour? Yeah, 1:30 your time, right? And I'm over in Eastern. So that's what's throwing me. Eastern time. That's going to be a little over 2 hours, 2.5 hours out.
Yep.
So
Me too. #MeToo will be the subject. So it's going to go deep. Trigger warning. Okay.
Just going over to her page now on the block with Jen. Go ahead and click the timer. That'll give us the reminder to tune in right when the show starts. All right. As always, you know, I roll my outro, and I love to read the comments and post them as we are heading out. So I want to give you guys that opportunity right now. Thank you all so much. If I didn't get a chance to shout you out during the show, I'm going to do it right here at the end. I appreciate you so much, Jen. I'm going to see you in a little bit. Thanks for coming through.
Bye, guys.
Wow.